Good morning, Carly and Todd. The FBI says this began as a peaceful event on Sunday. A group of people in Boulder had been marching at a pedestrian mall calling for the release of Israeli hostages in Gaza. Then police say 45-year-old Mohammed Sabri Soliman from El Paso set people on fire with that makeshift flamethrower. Video shows the smoke and people screaming. Authorities say 8 people were hurt, 4 women and 4 men between the ages of 52 and 88.
Witnesses are reporting that the subject used a makeshift flamethrower and threw an incendiary device into the crowd. The suspect was heard to yell, "Free Palestine," during the attack. As a result of these preliminary facts, it is clear that this is a targeted act of violence, and the FBI is investigating this as an act of terrorism.
DHS and ICE sources tell our Bill Malusian Soliman entered the U.S. in August 2022 with a non-immigrant visa. He was authorized to stay until February 2023, but he never left. On March 2023, he was given a work authorization visa under the Biden administration that was valid until just this past March. Reaction is now pouring in. Colorado Governor Jared Polis says hate is unacceptable in our Colorado for all, and I condemned this act of terror. House Speaker Mike Johnson posted on X, terrorist sympathizers have made it clear they will do anything to try and silence the Jewish people and those who support Israel. We cannot and will not let them win. Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer weighed in too, adding, anti-Semitism, plain and simple, has no place in America. I am praying for the victims' recovery and am in touch with the FBI as we closely monitor the situation. And Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says this: the anti-Semitic attacks around the world are a direct result of blood libels against the Jewish state and people, and this must be stopped. This has increased fears among the Jewish community. The NYPD, for instance, is increasing security around New York City's religious sites because of the attack. Carly and Todd.
Madeline Rivera, live for us this morning in Washington. Maddie, thank you. Let's bring in Hudson Institute senior fellow and national security analyst Rebeccah Heinrichs. Rebeccah, the suspect was here illegally after staying both his original visa and his work authorization. Simply put, he shouldn't have been here, and this was preventable, Rebeccah.
He shouldn't have been here. He overstayed his visa, illegal immigrant, and he had jihadist sympathies. And remember, just a couple of weeks ago, we had another couple who a killer believed that they were Jewish, and he was a communist. So we have a communist killing these individuals. Same thing, globalize the Intifada, free Palestine. And now here we have again a jihadist who has the same kind of sympathies, who overstayed his visa. Two different kinds of people with the same motivation, which is to kill the Jewish people.
Is there a means by which the national security apparatus could have caught this guy based upon his ideologies before he entered the U.S., if not for the Joe Biden era approach to letting everybody in this country who wanted to come in?
Well, it's hard to know at this point, but I'll say, the things that he was shouting right before he took action to kill these innocent elderly people, it's the same kind of thing that you hear on college campuses across the country. Globalize the Intifada. I mean, and this came on the heels, by the way, of what I believe really is a blood libel, where you had the media erroneously reporting that the Israelis were shooting on innocent civilians at a humanitarian checkpoint to get food. And so if you have false reporting that makes it seem as though the Israelis are the ones shooting on innocent people, of course, you should expect to have an incitement of violence when you can see these protests across the country from college campuses and abroad. So it's a tinderbox.
And along those lines, Rebeccah, let's be crystal clear what this was. This was a public burning of Jews and their supporters on American soil. We use the phrase terror attack. That can mean a lot of things. We need to be crystal clear and specific as to ultimately what happened. And of course, this comes right after the execution of those 2 Israeli diplomats in Washington, D.C. How do we stop this escalation of terror now before it becomes something bigger?
Well, I think the first thing that we have to do is to differentiate between what the First Amendment protects, which is just peaceful speech, even if you disagree with it. That's one kind of speech. But the other kind is incitement. It's anti-Semitic genocidal incitement. And so I think these college campuses cannot continue to normalize it. Jewish students must feel safe in this country to walk. Non-Jewish students, I mean, I'm a Christian. I believe it's every Christian's responsibility to be very doggedly defensive of our Jewish neighbors, to make sure that this does not continue to grow, because this is the kind of thing, anti-Semitism grows across societies if it is not stigmatized and stopped. And so I really think it's a duty of all of us to do that, in addition to the national security things our government can do, like make sure that those who hate this country are not allowed to be in this country, and those who are here need to be deported if they're here illegally.
And to that point, it really is just a matter of time if you let this fester even further before it expands beyond just the Jewish people and people that practice the Jewish religion. I want to get your thoughts on this before we let you go. Ukraine launching its largest drone strike on Russia, targeting multiple air bases and damaging more than 40 warplanes. Does this attack change the posture of today's ceasefire talks in Turkey, or does it in any way change Putin's plan to prolong this war?
Well, I think for Americans, one of the big takeaways we need to have is that Ukraine will continue to defend itself regardless of the outcomes of any kinds of talks. And so Russia is the one that refuses to engage in a ceasefire. And so we should not expect Ukraine to sit there and simply just allow itself to be pummeled. It was an amazing attack. I mean, it reminds me of some of the things we've seen on the part of the Israelis to take out Hamas terrorists across the region, and even Hezbollah terrorists. It was incredibly well planned over a year, took out these strategic bombers that could carry nuclear weapons. And so I think it's incredibly impressive. And it should remind the United States, you know, we need to be on the side of Ukraine if we want to have more influence over their actions, because they're going to continue to do what they believe is in their own national security interests. And all of the pressure needs to be on Russia to stop its assault against Ukraine.
And we'll see what pressure that brings today during those ceasefire talks, see if we get any movement in that front. Rebeccah Heinrichs, thank you so much. Appreciate it. Our coverage